Hi, I'm David Harris, CEO of American Jewish Committee. Say the word history these days, and there are those who are going to roll their eyes. Add the words Middle Eastern to history, and some will run for the hills. It's way too complicated, they will argue. But history does matter. In order to understand the Middle East, or more specifically the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, one does have to go back in time. So let me go back to November 1947. This was a time when the United Nations General Assembly considered a resolution which recommended the creation of two states. One, they said Jewish, and the other, they said Arab, that would live side by side in the land today we refer to as Israel and the Palestinian territories. The General Assembly voted, 33 nations in favor, 13 against. The UN was much smaller than it is today. The Jewish side accepted the recommendation of the United Nations. Now, they weren't terribly happy because they believed that historically, biblically, politically, they deserved more land. But they understood that half a loaf was better than none, and compromise was the only way this was going to work. The Arab side, however, took a different view and said, no, we reject any concept of compromise, and they walked away from the resolution, and they said their goal will be the annihilation of any newborn state of Israel. And indeed, 6 months later, in May 1948, as Israel was reborn, 5 standing Arab armies attacked that fledgling state with the aim of destroying it. Pure and simple, destroying it. They failed. But the point of the story is that we could have been talking about a two-state settlement as early as 1947, 1948, had cooler, more pragmatic, wiser heads prevailed. The Palestinians could have had their first exercise in sovereignty in history. And that state would have been living alongside the reborn Jewish state, which last existed in the first century of the Common Era. Now, that's not the end of history in the Middle East. History doesn't just stop. But it is a telling reminder when we talk today about a two-state solution, or whether Israel is interested in peace and compromise. The origins of the story go back many years, and the proof is that there could have been that two-state solution. Now, I'm not a pessimist. In the meantime, we have seen a widening circle of peace in the region. Israel, Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. My hope is that one day the Palestinians will join that widening circle of peace. And then the vision of both a two-state solution and a region at peace will be realized.